Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to our session on Thursday series. I'm Chrysolite representing Red Rope. We are hosting Thursday series in connection with human trafficking, deep diving into the various aspects and components of trafficking, hoping that all of us will be benefited from the sessions and we will be able to equip our resources, our organizations, and ensure that the work is more robust in its efficiency. With this, our today's session is on child trafficking, especially in connection with cyberspace. So, to facilitate this, we have Dr. M. Devasitham. Um, he is the head strategic development with International Justice Mission Chennai. Dr. M. Devasitham is the Associate Director, Strategy Development at International Justice Mission Chennai. He has been working in IGM for over 10 years. He's motivated by his passion to serve marginalized communities. He joined IGM in the year 2010 and started his fight against trafficking, human trafficking. He supported district administration and law enforcement officials to investigate, identify, and rescue the victims of human trafficking across the country. He, being a part of a team in IGM, rescued more than 3,500 victims of labor trafficking in collaboration with local government and police department. Wow, 3,500 people is a huge number. His rich field experience and expertise has led him to undertake a practical study on the study of bonded laborers, victims of labor trafficking during identification, release, rehabilitation, and prosecution, for which he received the doctorate in philosophy. That's credible. Passionate about protecting the vulnerable from violence in the context of human trafficking, he is committed to build the will and capacity of various government and non government agencies through impactful trainings. He is instrumental in setting the anti human trafficking help desk at Chennai Central Railway Station, along with government railway police in breaking down traffickers' network. He also supported the government of Kerala in assessment and prevention of human trafficking during the devastating Kerala floods. He also successfully led interstate human trafficking rescue operations and is a member of police led missing children investigation team in few states of India. Thank you so much, Dr. Deva, for accepting our request and facilitating this talk for us. And over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Crystalite, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really, really very happy and honored to be here. I've been part of some of your webinars, and it's just that I really admire your passion to bring all of us together so that we can get sensitized and get aware of different aspects of human trafficking from every side of the country. And I'm also part of some of the webinar where we had police officers, NGOs presenting and their expertise to sharing. And I'm very honored that I'm also sharing the same space today and sharing the human trafficking on the cyberspace. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I also thank all the participants. We have around, including all of us, we have 37 of us. I'm sure 37 NGOs. So I'm sure this is going to be reaching so many people, sensitizing on the issue of human trafficking. As Crystalite rightly mentioned, we're going to talk in details on human trafficking on cyberspace. If you give me 1 minute, I will just share my screen. Crystalite, can you see the screen well? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure some of us would have been part of my presentation sensitizing human trafficking on cyberspace. I'm sure you have so much things to share with me also. So it's more of a exchange of knowledge. So I am very eager to listen to all your questions at the end of the webinar. So please stay with me. If you have any questions, feel free to write it down or share it with Crystalite so that we don't miss out. So we have a fruitful session. Let me begin with, as said, I am from International Justice Mission. International Justice Mission is a global organization that works to work closely with the government to end violence against poor. In India, for the last 20 years, we've been associating with government officials in combating two forms of human trafficking, which is commercial sexual exploitation of minors and bonded labor system. And we closely work with grassroots NGOs to train the police officer and identify victims and rescue them, release them, and also into the prosecution. That's the angle. But everything that we do will closely work with the government officials. And what is human trafficking? And before this, I spoke to Crystalite and just checking what are these participants are. And one thing I heard is all of them is aware of what is human trafficking is. So I'm not going to go into the details of the definition other parts, but as a presenter, as a resource person, I would like to touch upon this. So we always stay on the basics before we get into the details. Let me begin with my favorite definition for human trafficking, because human trafficking simply means illegal trade of human beings. Friends, if you take any trade, any business for matter, there are three components will be there. When I purchased my mobile phone, there are three components involved in this. One, there is a seller, there is a buyer, and there is a product. Please remember these three components in business. In the same way, even in human trafficking business, there is a seller, there is a buyer, and humans are treated like a commodities. We're talking on a very big issue because human trafficking is the second largest crime in the world next to weapon dealing, weapon trafficking, and it earns 150 billion per year. According to ILO 2014 report, it is 150 billion. It's not a small issue that we are talking with. So friends, we need to have a convergence effort to combat this issue. That's what we're going to talk today. And the next one is we are going to focus more on children and women today because according to UNICEF, there are 2 million people are trafficked every year, out of which almost 1.5 million are children. What more shocking is even according to International Labour Organization report says that in India, 1.2 million children have been trafficked into exploitative conditions in two big sectors. One is informal sectors like agriculture, mining, factories, and second one is commercial sexual exploitation. In the year 2016, our own National Crime Records Bureau released a report, crime report that says more than 8,000 cases have been registered on human trafficking in one single year, which is 18% increase when compared to the previous year data. Friends, a crime that shows 18% increase this single year is something that we need to be very concerned about. And I also wanted to quickly give you one more data and then move on to the details of it. According to UNODC data, it clearly mentioned that majority of the victims trafficked in the year 2018, just 2 years ago, are women and children. I personally investigated, I supported police departments investigating human trafficking crimes. I've been in the places where girls being sold like a commodities. Families were auctioned like an animals, just say, okay, pay us 50,000 rupees, take this family to work under you for 6 months or 1 year. I've witnessed that situation. And I also seen there is a high demand for children. If a person selling a children in human trafficking system, a human trafficker or pimp to someone else, the money they receive is very high. I don't want to get into more detail, but I want you all to know at this point, there is a high demand for children and young adults. And most of the children and young people are vulnerable because 71% of the people who traffic are women and young girls. And most of the women and young girls are trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation and child marriage. And most of the men and boys are trafficked for the exploitation in labor industry. In Indian context, IPC 370 talks about human trafficking. I'm sure you know about this, but I really insist on all of us to well aware of the law so that when we meet the officials, when we meet the um, uh, uh, people for asking for rescue operation, I want you to be well aware of the definition and how this scale fits into the definition of human trafficking. So it's easy for you to fight for the crime. And the simple definition is any person is recruited, transported, harbored, transfer, receives a person using threats, force, form, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception for the purpose of exploitation is considered as a human trafficking crime. You get all this in internet. You can actually have it. I can also share my slide. But I'm very, very, insisting that we should be aware of the definition so that it's easy for us to fight for this crime. And as you all know that there is a three major big purpose of why human trafficking is happening: for labor, for sexual, commercial sexual exploitation, and for organ. These are the major three things. We all know aware of it. And one thing that we always fail to understand is human trafficking cannot happen just like that. It does not happen its own because it got a very systematic, organized network of criminals who actually, do the trafficking of humans. Friends, I've actually witnessed right from the spotters because it starts from a spotter who just wander in the villages, going to the villages or going to the places, look for a vulnerable situation, look for a vulnerable community member, and they target them and slowly they recruit them. There are different modes used by the traffickers. There is a nice paper is on tactics of human traffickers or mindset of human traffickers, and that gives us a clear picture of how they function. And that the person recruit them, then there's seller, and there's a person to transport, there's a person to abuse or exploit, there's a person to finance. There is entire process of human trafficking. There is a person who's a custodian or a keeper of the victims, and there is a contractor and who actually restrict the movements of the victim and kept them, in a very restricted situation. So these are the big networks. They come together for every single human trafficking cases. And that's why in the beginning of the session, I said that it is important for us all to come together to fight this crime. If a network of people coming together for a bad, and I think it's a network of NGOs, well-wishers, experts should come together for good also, because the convergence makes a big difference in combating human trafficking. Friends, without taking much of your time, I'll get into the very deep components of human trafficking on cyberspace. In India, there are 26.1 million people are using social media, and out of which almost 164.81 million of people who are using social media is Indian teen and students capacity. I wanted to give you one picture. Sometimes the moment we get on social media, the moment we get on cyberspace, we always think I'm using it so that I can stay connected with my family, my friends, my colleagues, and the people I know. I'm using this for nothing, just for this. That is a general thought. But friends, I wanted to understand one thing today, that the social media platform or the cyberspace is not only shared by your friends and family, it is also shared by criminals. It's also shared by pedophiles. It is also shared by abusers, frauds, and human traffickers. I'm not exaggerating. We will see in a minute with the live examples of how this social media platform are utilized by the criminals to lure the victims of vulnerable victims for various crimes. Friends, especially during this COVID situation, let me give you a small data that almost 36% of the people were started using, spending more time on mobile applications. The 47% of the people started using social media. This is a regular it is just higher than the regular one. And almost 46% of those people started spending more time on messenger services like WhatsApp, like Instagram, WeChat, Snapchat, in different forums. And then there is a 57 days of increase in people watching shows and films that include pornography. It's okay, people started using it. I'm not against technology. I am supporting technology. We need technology. But what happens is when people is not aware of what is the bad side of the technology, then they become highly vulnerable for cyber trafficking or for any crime for that matter. Friends, I will start with a basic, not a basic, it's something that happened in our own country. And I will just give you the example. Using social media network and photos and videos, the cyber trafficking is happening. In Chennai, there is a person called Venkatesh has been arrested by Tamil Nadu police. And when he was arrested, he was actually pimping out young girls in the film industry. When he was arrested, it was very shocking to hear. He actually employed 30 tech-savvy people under him. Their job is to get on social media using fake accounts, start sending a message to all the girls based on their demand, especially girls who release a small videos. And these 30 tech-savvy youngsters start sending a message saying that you look beautiful. You should be in film industry. You know, you can be the next Nayanthara, next Deepika Padukone. You know, they just use all their deceived words to actually loot these victims. And there are a lot of victims escape out of that trap, but some are actually get trapped. And they slowly started responding because one of the major deceived things that they use, the means that they used by this trafficker is a job opportunity. And he said that, you know, because you look beautiful, you have a good skill set, why don't you join film industry in Tamil Nadu? We will begin with a small role, small characters, and then you get into the major screen. That's how they all started. And, you know, by the time the police get to the network and they already victimized 30 young girls in Tamil Nadu. And all started with social media, cyberspace. All started with just a chat by a stranger appreciating these girls, not knowing then it is a trap. And then the second one I wanted to talk about is exciting job opportunity under cyberspace. Again, friends, I wanted to give you a live example. 32 nurses were rescued in Bangalore airport. It was suspected by, because all the 32 different language, German, from there they will be sent to different places so that they can get a nursing job. When the police officials saw that in an airport, a bunch of nurses don't have any details other than they're just traveling to learn the language in another country, and they started probing more into details, and they found out all these were nurses graduated from nursing in Kerala, and they all applied for a job through one agent who actually started contacting them virtually and slowly luring them. Then investigate, lure all this victim, and they were on their way to different country, and we don't know what's going to happen to them. And the trafficker is arrested, and all the 32 Kerala nurses were, you know, saved. Sometimes you might have questions like, how do they get my name? How do they get my contact details so that they can buy on recharge stores where we give the numbers? We tell you give your number, your name, and tell them, you know, recharge for 100 rupees and you get away. Sometimes you use online portals and you give your phone numbers, and that is utilized by the traffickers. Sometimes you do receive messages where the trafficker can easily reach out to you. The next one is, I'm sorry, I'm taking some more time. I'm quickly running through. Sorry, Crystal. You can stop me if I'm exceeding my time limit. The next one is talent-based offers. Talent-based offer is very simple. They start actually looking for a people, the youngsters, you know, who's actually have some good talent on social media. They could be a singer, they could be a good instrument player, they could be a dancer. And in this case, there was a girl arrested, there was a woman arrested in Chennai airport. Basically, this woman is from Mumbai. She runs a dance school, like a choreography school, where they target young children through cyberspace. They start sending them a message, they bring them to their home, they bring them to the dance club, they give them like almost like a few months, they train them like a dancers, and after that they take them to different countries in the name of competition. But friend, what's shocking, when this woman was arrested, she takes a bunch of young kids every year to different countries, but she comes back without them. What happened to those kids, we don't know. And they also arrested 4 choreographers who actually supported this trafficker to lure or deceive these victims in the process of trafficking. The next one is raising is very common nowadays. It's called lover boy concept. It's also called as online Romeos. Their only job is to get online, start chatting with the young girls using a cyberspace, and start talking to them, sharing their information, and slowly, just build the emotional relationship with them, make them feel that they are their life partner. They cannot live without them. They bring them to that extent so that they completely trust them. The moment they trust them, they slowly the online become a physical, and then slowly they say like, let's get married to another state, let's travel, and they're all sold. The girls are sold in different into the different states in our country. And within an hour, for example, I would say from Chennai, within 3 hours, the girl can be trafficked into Andhra Pradesh. In 5 hours, they can take it into Karnataka. If they're using flight, in 1.5 hours, they can reach any other place. In 3 hours, they can even reach our capital, Delhi. That is what actually happening. Not only that, there is dating apps nowadays called Tinder. These are the apps actually give you the proximity location available girls and boys. The moment you register into this app, it will actually show you the beautiful boys, beautiful girls who also registered in this dating app, which is in the proximity of 10 kilometers around your houses. We are not safe, friends. That's what actually happening. So the moment the trafficker gets into this app, they started chatting with all the girls in their surroundings and slowly lure them, deceive them, and put them in the process of human trafficking. The next one is, I'm not against any of this matrimonial sites, but I'm just want to put a warning here that these sites also utilize, it's become a trend that, even traffickers register themselves as people looking for a bride and bridegrooms. And there's a lot of things are happening in this site, because the moment you get in, slowly started chatting with them, you get the entire profile of a girl, entire profile of a boy, and they slowly use a fake ID to start chatting with them. And sometimes it ends up in human trafficking also for a different criminal purposes. And it is very common among children nowadays, friends. I want all them, I'm sure most of us who are attending are parents in this forum. I wanted to, give you this heads up. There is something called cyber grooming, which is very common, but during this COVID situation, it's taking a big leap that, it starts sending a message to your children by a stranger. It actually has 5 stages. They start with the relationship building stages, and slowly they do the risk assessment of checking the children. If the child is sharing whatever is, they're doing it on online with the parents or friends. The moment they come to know that they're not sharing, and they move into isolation stage where the children were told not to share this information with anyone. The children are given particular time when they can talk to the stranger, share pictures, and slowly it enters into a sexual stage where they ask for child picture. Send you a picture of your thigh, send you a picture of your off naked picture. Slowly that built into a place where all the shared picture were screenshotted, sent back to the child, and they have the hold of a child saying, if you're not paying money, if you're not paying a sexual favor, if you're not paying any of what I'm asking, then I will share this information with your parents and friends, and just put you in a shameful spot. And the conclusion stage is very dangerous, where they actually, the cyberspace become a personal one. They ask your children to get on a bus to come to a common city so that they can actually exploit your child. Friends, it's happening. There's several cases registered under the category of cyber grooming. Please be very careful on this. And nowadays, I want all the parents also to be aware of is something called sexting. Sexting is nothing but using a phone to just use the sexting language with a stranger or with our own friends. It started as a fun, and nowadays it's very common among students. It started as a fun, slowly they share one, just unwanted pornographic pictures. The moment they receive it, they just check for your reaction. If you're actually flow with their reactions and they're very happy, they start sending all the messages. At one point, they build a trust. They ask you to send a messages, send the pictures. They do all the screenshots, changing their names, and it's become a sextortion. Sexting become a sextortion where you will be asked to pay a huge amount of money, or you will be asked to pay, your children are asked to pay a big lesson. big compensation amount to them. I'm not trying to frighten you or scare you, but once I'm just presenting you a different aspect of cyberspace utilized for human trafficking. The next one is online games. Some of you may ask questions, how come a game, involved in human trafficking? Because let me tell you, nowadays games are not played alone. All the online games are played with the strangers. In fact, you can interact with people. PUBG is banned, you all know that, but PUBG requires more than 3 people to come online, so you can keep talking to them. You tell them, the enemy is other side, you go and shoot them. That's what it all starts. This online, it's become a personal one. I don't know how many of you heard the news that a child lost almost the parent's entire life saving in Gujarat. Almost 14 lakhs rupees has been lost because he was playing online game, given his parents' credit card details on the online portal to just get him to skip into a next level, and the 14 lakhs rupees lost within a moment. And this is how it begins from they get your details, and slowly the online become a physical, relationship, emotional relationship, and then slowly get into this. I'm not actually saying it is only for girls. It is even the boys are not excluded here. Even boys are trafficked for, as I mentioned earlier, for the labor trafficking purposes. The last one is, this is one of the emerging ones. It's called online sexual exploitation of children. And it is actually very higher in other countries, and it is also slowly emerging in our own country. Friends, be careful where the children are trafficked and they exploited in this country, like developing countries. And this exploitation is live telecasted for all the customer across the world. And one of our offices in Philippines exclusively work on this. And within a short span of time, they were able to arrest more than 900 traffickers. Rescue more than 300 people and bring in the network of 900 people. And I just wanted to, as a expert working in the place of human trafficking, please be aware of all this context. Because the children is not only, used in the cyberspace, they also use, these are the general terms used, are you up for a pleasure trip, job in film industries, modeling, acting, parlors, matrimonial sites, online sex tourism, false promises for marriages, befriending by giving goodies, dance troupes, job placement agencies, and different ones. Friends, sometimes you generally think, okay, this online traffickers, they're not here. The criminals are not here. They sit with the computer with all the brainy. No. We need to change the perspective on the cyber criminals. These criminals are, it's not something they come from outside. I would like to quote NCRB data that is released in 2017. It says almost 14.70% of the criminals, cyber criminals, are our own neighbors, friends, and relatives. And there is other categories also mentioned here, but I wanted to be aware, even, like our own neighbor, friends, and relatives can be, our predators. Because I'm sure most of us have Facebook accounts, and in the Facebook account, even if I ask you a question like how many of the Facebook friends that you have met in the past, you have accountable over them. In case if they do something to you, do you have an accountable over them? Do you think you can get to them and apart from going to the police, I'm just saying, do you have a personal accountability towards the friends that you have in the Facebook list? Please, this is the time for us to check. Not only our own Facebook accounts, not only our own social media accounts, also please educate our children to check their Facebook account and social media, because most of the issues begins when they start interacting with strangers. Sometimes the stranger will not begin with strangers category. They slowly become friends with you and slowly become, start sharing information with you, and then they'll demand information from you. And most of the time we accept friend requests just like that. All the one thing that we look is, whether they are our, common friends list. If they are crystallite friends, then they become my friend. If they were friends, then they become Dr. Reni's relative friend. Because they say, okay, I know Dr. Deva, then Dr. Deva's friend list will be a good people. Friends, sometimes I don't know whether because I don't know that person who I accepted, because I accepted that person as my friend circle, because I see they are in a common friend circle with someone else. We need to be think before we accepting other friends. And about visibility of our things. I'll just put this 10 points. This is a very basic point that I actually shared. One is block your profiles from public searches. Don't just give away your information. I'm not against you being on social media platform, but one thing that I'm suggesting is just before giving information on social media platform, think prior, because the imprint that you're making on social media platform cannot be removed. Even if you delete your histories, even if you delete your information on social media, it can be retrieved. It can be retrieved for minimum of 3 years. And super sophisticated software can retrieve information for several years also. Then limit what people can learn about you. Do not give away your birthday, your family details, your house address, everything on social media. Log out after each session and don't share social media credential with anyone. I remember a case where the girl was sending a picture to her husband who was working in another country, and all of a sudden she received all these pictures from a stranger to her. And she was so shocked to see that, and all of a sudden she received a call, and she attended the call. The story was very shocking that there's a person demanding sexual favor from this lady. Otherwise, she will share all this in a close relationship picture with her husband to a stranger on a social media platform. And then she shared that with her sister. Sister was very smart. She informed the police and cyber expert, and finally they made an arrangement to meet that person. It was so shocking. That person is none other than their own relative. She bought a mobile phone during her wedding, gave it to a relative. That person, the youngster, told him to download apps, and he also downloaded apps that can clone information from our phone and keep sending to his phone. That's how he's able to. So please be careful when you're using a gadget, and don't accept friend requests from any unknown, or don't click suspicious links. The moment you think, if you're receiving a message saying you are won a lottery of 1 crore rupees, you know that is fake. Then why do you give a chance by clicking the link? Don't share anything on social media or online. Sorry, don't share everything on social media, because sometimes I didn't include the picture, because sometimes what you do on social media and what is the criminals are doing. All the photos and videos of our girls, our families, our children are shared on social media is being collected and sold on pornography sites. There are several cases, a perpetrator arrested in Delhi and Mumbai and Karnataka and different major cities. Their only job is to collect and sell these photos and videos on cyberspace, especially in the dark web. And all the videos that you're putting, and the traffickers are actually categorizing which kind of a girl that they want, that they fit into their demand. In one of our case, there was a demand created. They've taken a picture of a girl, sent it to a pimp, and told that this girl is studying in this college. Can you go traffic that girl? It is a live example I'm giving, friends. These are information that I was involved and my friends are involved. And sometimes choose age-appropriate app for your children. Do not buy into any app that's just available on Google Play Stores or any other platform. Set privacy settings. Show only your friends can see or only the people you accept can see. Change it. And please use parental control and supervise your kids' information, because some of our kids are online nowadays because of the online classes. It is good and bad, but you know what? Whatever it is, you need to have a parental control. You can set a parental control information so that only certain apps that your children can view in your phone. And teach children behave responsibility. How they can behave responsibly on the social media platform or on the cyber platform. Never, teach them to never trust any strangers on cyberspace. Sometimes they use a well-known celebrity face, well-known family member face. They know who they're linked with. They just click it and just share it. The last one is, I would like to end with the story of Ria, who was rescued from a sex establishment. She was actually born in West Bengal during her school break. Due to the family situation, there was an aunt who comes from Karnataka. She told that she will give her a job in a garment industry. She was brought all the way from West Bengal to be employed in Bangalore. and she was brutally, raped by her customers because she's a pimp. She was pimped out, and then she was actually sent to Tamil Nadu. From there, she was sent to Pondicherry. She was exploited all over this place. Finally, with the help of the local government and local police, we were able to rescue her. And one thing was still fresh in my mind, that she told me, and she told the entire team, that she wished she was told about what is human trafficking is. Because she was so young, she's not aware of it. Nobody told her. And she told, if I know about this, I would have protected myself from these predators. I'm sure most of you agree with this statement. I'm sure you also experience the same along with me, friends. This cyberspace is something trending, nowadays it's taking up. So I want to not just share this information with you so that you can go back to your own community, you can go back to your own families, your own neighbors, and tell about this human trafficking on cyberspace issues, so that they're protected. And we don't want any more Riyas to be rescued. We want all the Riyas, all our girls to be safe, all our boys to be safe, so that we can together create a safe community in our own country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deva. Before we open the forum for further questions, could you give us more examples on how, online education, how parents should be cautious about these online education, and also about how, as you said, some of the YouTube videos that children watch, how can parents be ensured that they protect this, they protect the children, and also ensure that that children learn.
Yeah. So thank you, Crystal. That's a very important question. I really wanted to address more on this topic while presenting. So now we're all actually, we cannot stop our children from learning, because we cannot stop our children also from attending classes online, because it might lead them to lose the interest of knowing, learning things. But one thing that we can be very careful on social media platform, especially learning platform, there is something called parental care applications available. Only allow certain applications like Google Meet or Zoom or some one or two, three applications, so that the children cannot go beyond that. The children can only limited to access to that, only that application. That is one best example that I'm doing it to my son also, because you can freely give your phones, because that will not allow the kids to go beyond what you allow them to watch, what they allow them to see. That is one. Second one is, you can also teach your children, there is something called safe view. In all the youth, even if you're saying, because you picked up the example of YouTube, I'm saying it, in the YouTube, you can also have an option, go to settings, there is an option called, safe view, that will filter all the very big violent sexual content and anything that is, inappropriate for the age limit. So it automatically filters. It's a choice that you and I are making, the choice that you and I are teaching our children. So if they follow that, I think this application is available in all the platforms, not applications. These settings are available in most of the famous things. Even in Instagram, you can set a time limit. You can teach your children per day, your children should actually use only 3 hours of mobile or 1 hour of mobile. Because if the class is for 1 hour, you give them some extra time of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, so that they can use their homework. So you set a time limit for your children. And I also use some good apps that actually reminds you after you exit your time limit per day. I hope that helps. And just adding to one more, I'm sorry to just jump in. There is a beautiful document released by Ministry of Home Affairs. It's on the basic precautionary measure for each and every children to be taken. I know when they're using on social media. Very happy to share that with the Crystalite, so she can share that with. And second, in Andhra Pradesh, and there was an amazing document released called Cyberspace Girl. It's a brilliant document with a pictorial exploitation, a pictorial story dialogue, is available. That document is a brilliant one. If you just go through it, it's a self-explanatory one. You go through it and teach your children through that.
Great. Thank you so much. So we would like to open this forum for any questions from the participants. Either you could unmute yourself, or you could pose the questions in the chat box, and we will be able to ask them to the.
So one of participants sent me a direct question. I think by mistake it said. It says the role of volunteers in protection of child trafficking. So I think they sent a personal question. I'm just sharing it so that yeah. So if just like permit, I can. Shall I go ahead and share respond to this? Yeah. Yeah. So I think our own Crystalite actually coordinates something called Anti-Human Trafficking Club. It is actually it's a brainchild of Dr. P.M. Nair, and there's different organizations, government actually adopting this model and creating a clubs in institutions like educational institutions and NGO anti-human trafficking club. Anyone can be part of this club. It's just a very structured forum where you can actually create this anti-human trafficking club in your own educational institution. If you wanted to create one in Andhra Pradesh, our own Crystalite ma'am is the best thing. I know a person you can reach out to her. If you want one in Tamil Nadu, you can also reach out to IJM. If you want other part, you can reach out to us so that we can help you in your own state. You can actually form this anti-human trafficking. That is one. Second, I don't know, some of you joined in the beginning of a conversation between, some of NGOs came together and they were sharing. And one of the discussions that Crystalite led was, how you can actually make your self-help groups, as one of the change agents in the issue of human trafficking. They can act as a good volunteers, to reduce the vulnerability among the vulnerable communities. Sometimes, friends, if you see, most of the victims of human trafficking are from the vulnerable communities, especially, it could be economic vulnerability, it could be a social vulnerability, it could be it could be societal vulnerability. These are the main communities who are targeted by the trafficker. So these self-help groups can be converted into a change agent to combat human trafficking. They can be a volunteers also. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. The second question is, how do we prevent the cyber crime when the children play online games? In the present context, play online games, how to protect them? Basically, how do we protect from online games?
Yeah. So I think that I can empathize with you because nowadays the schools are closed. People are attending classes online. There used to be a phase where the parents, I also, you say like, don't touch the phone. If you wanted to see anything, you just watch it in the TV, then go to bed, read books. But now we are in the context where we are buying phones and giving to the children, attend the class. So I think it is also developing a positive, condition in the children's mind. It's okay to use phones, and I'm also saying it's okay to use phones with the restrictions, with the parental care, especially when it comes to online games. When there is some games called educational games. Most of us are not aware of these educational games. Please go, even wherever you're searching, even if you're searching Google Play Store, please search for educational games that will actually give you games that you can play games, also learn alphabets, also learn ethics, also learn a major thing. These games will lead your children, at the end of the playing games, the games will lead your children for some learning things. But if you're letting your children to play games like violent games, shooting, sniper, and all this, what? It actually making a behavioral changes. If you see your children are, responding violently, they're responding very rudely when you are actually asking them to do something. That is the impact of this violent game. That is the impact of the violent media, impact on their children's mind. So please make sure you need to check, because as a parent, you have all the rights to check what type of games your children are using, who they are interacting with. If you found the children, please, it's okay to say no. Now, at the beginning itself, even if they start, say, the mom and dad, you are, shouting at, you're not letting me play what I want. It's okay to stop them. Rather, taking them to a counselor, crying in front of the counselor, telling my son, his behavior is changing, is behaving violently. You choose which you wanted to prefer at this point.
Okay. I think that was a very valid suggestion that you gave, that yes, most of us parents do not know of the various educative games that are online. I would also second that. Please ensure that we build healthy habits into our children. We build we utilize healthy aspects that are there online. And I also want to recommend, with your permission, Dr. Deva, that every device that you give to the child, there is something called as child protection and child lock that you could use on your systems, on your laptop, on your devices. There is also a setting where whatever the child is browsing, parent will get the access of all the browsing history. Please ensure, until your child reaches degree graduation, please ensure that you enable this option, because most of the online pornography, most of addictions to pornography happens during this teenage years. So we would recommend and we would really urge all of you to enable that option. And during your discussions with your community workers or participants, wherever it is, please ensure that you suggest these tips to the viewers or participants. Yes.
Just,
Any other questions? Yes, yes,
just
Dr. Deva, please
wanted,
go.
yeah, just wanted to add, sometimes parents, one of the ways that parents should have that control is do not give the access like a password of the phone to your children. That's actually lead them to use the phone very often, because sometimes the parents, you are busy with working, because especially during this time what happens is we're all working from home. For me, like I sit at the place, like I just start working on it, and all of a sudden my son comes and asks me that I give me a phone. I just give it out. That's all I know, because we are very busy with the phone. But you know what? You should have the password for phones and give it to them. Every time the phone gets locked, they should come back to you, ask for you permission to relock it. The reason I'm suggesting this mode is so that you know how much time the children are spending. And again, as Crystal clearly mentioned, that you can clone your phone also, so that you have a copy of what is actually they are watching, what is they are accessing into. And all these things are actually preventing them. We are not trying to cut down their rights, but we are actually trying to protect them from predators. I want you to get into that kind of an aspect, that they need care, they need a guidance at this point. If we miss to provide guidance, and that actually led them to some very bad situation. So please continue this protocol. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much. Any other questions from any other participants, please? I think you have very crystallized all the points, Dr. Deva. So it's very clear to understand for us with those pictures. It has really helped us. So thank you so much. I think most of the participants are clear and do not have any further questions. I received appreciations during your presentation itself privately, that excellent presentation and excellent session karke. So thank you so much for accepting our request and facilitating this session. So if anybody would like to get in touch with you, I can share offline your email ID, and they can actually connect with you further. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Dr. Deva, once again, and thank you everyone for tuning into today's session.
So just like
Yes,
So,
Dr. Deva.
can I leave?
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
just about to end the meeting. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.